Howdy howdy y'all, welcome back to Luke's Homebrew. Today we are going over the Blackguard, otherwise known as the one person that's going to stand up to the paladin and say, no, stop fondling God, let's make our own bread. So I'm just going to go straight into it. Today we're just really going to go over, I'm going to read each ability, explain my insights as to why I created that ability that way, and hopefully if you had any questions, if you're using this in your own campaign or you're a player that's interested in using it, hopefully I can answer those questions. Otherwise, in the description you will see my Instagram handle. Go ahead and check that out, and in there you can just shoot me a DM. Hopefully I can get back to you within a short period of time. But anyways, let's get into the video. So, just some concept art up front. Let's head on over here. Scroll down. So over here we have our table, as with any other standard 5th edition class. And it's pretty simple. There's this introduction I wrote for you guys if you want to read it. Otherwise, I will probably refer back to this, but let's skip over it and move on to the class features. So, class features are, hit dice is 1d10 per Blackguard level, as per normal with like a fighter or paladin. Same thing, hit dice, hit points at first levels 10 plus your con. At higher levels it's 1d10 or 6 plus your constitution modifier per Blackguard level after first. Your proficiencies are all weapon shields, and simple weapons and martial weapons, so just all weapons. No tools, strength and constitution saving throws, skills, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, persuasion, religion, and stealth. You get to pick 2 of those. All those are simple and bare bones, nothing too crazy, so I'm not going to go over it. Equipment, 2-handed martial melee weapon or 2 one-handed martial melee weapons, Dungeoneers or Explorers pack, and some chainmail. Nothing crazy. Blackguard save DC, that's something we'll touch on just for a little bit. It is 8 plus proficiency plus charisma modifier. I thought charisma was very suiting for this class. I kind of leaned on constitution, but I felt as if charisma was a little bit more thematic, so that's why I stuck with charisma over constitution. But let's go on to first level abilities as we kind of go deeper. I'll get into some more lengthy conversations, but as of now I just wanted to read those out for you guys. So, Infernal Hunger is your first level ability. Whenever you hit an enemy, you regain 1 hit point. That amount increases to 2 hit points at 7th level, and 3 hit points at 14th level. So theoretically, if you end up getting 3 attacks and you hit on all 3, which isn't guaranteed, you could get potentially 9 hit points back if you had 3 attacks. It's good, but once you see these next couple abilities, especially Lifelink, you're going to see that that's almost a necessity to keep you alive long enough to be able to use some of your cooler abilities. Additionally, I think it's very thematic with the Blackguard from original Baldur's Gate, where it was a constant life swing of low health to high health, and really playing with that gambling mechanic of, I'm going to gamble my life total in order to be able to deal more damage, or maybe I can build it all up and act like a bullet sponge for the rest of the party. But second level is your Grim Awakening. That's when you get to pick your subclass, and we'll go into those in order. Next is Fighting Styles at second level. You get to choose one of the following options. You can't pick a fighting style option more than once, so if you already went into Fighter or Paladin, and you already chose Dueling or Defense, you can't pick it twice as per normal. But you get Archery, Defense, Dueling, Great Weapon Fighting, 2-weapon fighting, and tunnel fighter at your DM's discretion. I believe as of the recording of this video that is still Unearthed Arcana. I like it, so I threw it in just so it got a little bit more traction and people could see it more often. It is not created by myself. The rest of those are standard player handbook stuff, so I'm not going to read that to you because you can find that in the player handbook. But let's move on to Lifelink. And this was such a pain to create. But I think now in this final iteration of the Blackguard, hopefully, it is exactly as I want it. So beginning at 3rd level, you learn to manifest your malice into a melee weapon of your choice. To gain the benefits of this ability, you must first attune to a melee weapon as if it were a magic item. So it doesn't have to be a magic item in order for you to attune to it, but it takes up that attunement slot. I hope that makes sense. Now, if the weapon you choose is already magical and requires attunement, you may use that attunement to satisfy this requirement. So if it's already magical, you don't need to sacrifice 2 attunement slots to use this ability. Essentially, that was just my way of kind of gauging and kind of scaling this for higher levels, especially as you continue to get more HP and can continue to deal more damage with this. Taking 1 attunement slot is a huge price, but it's not a game-breaking price or something that's really going to ruin your fun. But anyways, let's actually get into the abilities instead of the costs. While attuned, you may, as a bonus action, declare a number of dice up to a maximum of your proficiency bonus. You then lose life equal to the lifelink die maximum per die declared. So let's break that apart a little bit. So while attuned, you can use your bonus action, easy. Then you can declare a number of dice equal to your maxima, up to a maximum of your proficiency bonus. So if you are 5th level, you're a 5th level Blackguard, your proficiency bonus will be +3. Let's scroll up to show you that. So +3. So you can declare up to 3 dice. Now let's go look at our lifelink dice, since that starts at level 3. So at 5th level, we have D4s. So we can declare up to 3 D4s and lose life equal to the max of that. So 3 times 4, which is the max of a D4, would be 12. So you would lose 12 hit points in order to use this ability on top of the attunement cost and the bonus action to use it. Then, once you declare that, you lose life equal to your lifelink die maximum per die declared, and for 1 round thereafter, whenever you hit with an attack, you may deal additional force damage equal to 1 plus the amount of lifelink dice declared. So let's break that apart again. So for 1 round thereafter, so on your normal attack action abilities, so say once you hit 5th level, you have an extra attack, you have 2 attacks, and then let's say someone triggers a opportunity attack. That would also count for this ability. It only resets at the start of your next turn. So, whenever you hit with an attack, you deal additional force damage. I felt like any other type of damage was a little lackluster. I played with necrotic damage a little bit, but it feels like almost too many enemies have resistance to that it wasn't working the way I wanted it to work. But then equal to 1 plus the amount of lifelink dice declared is probably the key part of this whole ending sentence. That is, you get 1 additional dice in addition to the lifelink dice you declared. So going back to our example, you're 5th level, you declared 3d4, so you took that 12 damage, well, you get 1 other d4, so you get to deal 4d4 damage. I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, rewatch it, bring it to a friend. Otherwise, shoot me a DM on Instagram. But let's move on. So the next thing is ability score improvement. We all know what that is, hopefully. No special levels get anything in addition. It's just 4th, 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th. Extra attack, same as normal. 5th level, you get an extra attack. 7th level is Conduit of Night. You become one with darkness. While in darkness, magical or not, you gain blind sight of 15 feet. Now, the only prerequisite is that you have to be in complete darkness. So obviously, if it is completely light outside or someone just cast the daylight spell, you do not gain this. That was the only fair way to kind of modulate that. But say you're going through the Underdark and you have a party full of warlocks that have devil sight, well, y'all are going to be badasses, and I can't say anything about that. So, and really, blind sight of 15 feet is really just going to protect you from people that are trying to sneak up on you while invisible in darkness. Hope that makes sense. Or like a rogue trying to assassinate you. But let's move on to 9th level, Blessings from the Abyss. Your evil doings have reached the ears of powerful entities in the Abyss and other places similar to it, such as possibly the 9 Hells. As a reward, they have chosen to bestow upon you a choice of one of the boons for ensuing anarchy into the multiverse. You may pick another boon at 17th level. So your first option is Tough Exterior. You get +1 bonus to armor class. Your next ability that you could choose is Words of Cunning. You gain advantage on charisma checks made against creatures of evil alignments. So that would be very good against like trying to make deals with devils, because obviously the best deal you can make really is determined by the best charisma check you can make generally. Fiendish Friend. You learn the Find Familiar spell and can choose to summon either a quasi or an imp in addition to the original options noted in the spell Find Familiar. It is completely under the wraps of Find Familiar, and almost is a verbatim copy of the Warlock's Pact of the Chain. I hope that makes sense. Hidden Knowledge. You gain proficiency in any one skill or expertise in a skill you're already proficient in. And Infernal Sight, you can see in any form of darkness, including magical, up to 60 feet. So you get to choose one of those at 9th level, and then another one at 17th level. Hope that makes sense. Let's move on to 10th level, which is Aura of Terror. You can't be frightened, and when a hostile creature enters within a 15-foot radius of you, they must succeed on a Wisdom saving throw against your Blackguard spell save DC, or Blackguard DC, on their turn, or be frightened for 1 minute. If they succeed on the saving throw, they are immune to it for 24 hours, and then at 18th level, that range increases to 30 feet. Almost a copy and paste verbatim, except kind of flipped from the original Paladin in their main class. They get a different aura ability for healing their party members. But let's move on to Dark Resistance. Beginning at 13th level, you gain an unnatural resilience to the effects of magic. You gain advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical abilities. So, with this ability, I can see where a few people would get very upset and very defensive, because it does, on paper, read very, very powerful. And in play, it is pretty powerful, I'm not going to lie. But look at a Warlock Pact of the Chain, for example. They get an imp as their familiar. Well, if the imp sits on their body, then they then gain the exact same ability, and that's a 3rd level ability for a Warlock. If a smart wizard goes and makes a deal with an imp by casting Summon Lesser Devils, or Demons, I don't know, one of those demon spells that just came out in Xanathar's, then they can get the exact same ability. There's a bunch of different ways to get this ability, so I don't think, at far lower levels, so I don't think it's uncalled for the Blackguard, the Infernal Warrior, to not have it as well. But let's move on to Death Knight. Starting at 15th level, when you reach 0 HP, you can restore life to yourself. As a reaction, you can pull the life force from the closest living creature, friend or foe, within 15 feet. The target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against your Blackguard save DC, or take 3d4 necrotic damage. You gain half the amount of necrotic damage dealt, rounded up. If the target succeeds, they suffer no damage, and you are healed to 1 HP. Once you use this ability, you must take a long rest before you can utilize it again. Additionally, you cease aging and no longer suffer any of the drawbacks of old age and cannot be aged magically. I absolutely adore this ability, and I think it's right at the perfect level, and that last little clause where you no longer age, I think should be in almost every class, just because I think it's really important for everyone's characters to be able to reach level 20 and then live on indefinitely, so that that player can feel like their character can move on and maybe pop up in future campaigns. So I think those types of abilities are really, really important, so that's why I introduced it here. I'm going to move the mic quick, just so it's a little bit farther away, so I'm not blowing up your guys' ears. That's better. So let's move on to level 20, Unholy Champion. 20th level, you've transformed yourself into a Lord of Darkness. The light quakes at your presence, and the weak bend to your will out of fear. Once per long rest, as an action, you become surrounded by a thick miasma that spreads out for 30 feet, and you gain the following benefits for 1 minute. At the beginning of your transformation, you are instantly healed for 3d8 plus 10 HP, so perhaps this is good to use on like the second turn in a Baby EG boss battle. You become resistant to all damage, and any enemy that starts their turn within that 30-foot radius then takes 3d6 necrotic damage, no save, they just take it. It's 20th level, it better be bombastic and freaking amazing. But let's start moving into these subclasses. We got 3 of them. We have the Archfey, we have the Fiend, and we have the Vampire. Let's start with the Archfey. I'm not going to read the intro clause because hopefully all of you know what an Archfey is. They're the lords and ladies of the Feywild. And before we move on, each of these subclasses isn't like a warlock where a warlock makes a pact with one of these creatures and beseeches them for their power and hopes to just get a sprinkle of it. Instead, the Blackguard, you want to focus on slowly becoming those creatures. A Blackguard wants to become a Archfiend. A Blackguard wants to become a Vampire Lord and slowly turns themselves into that. And each of these subclass abilities reflects that very slow transformation from becoming a mortal man or woman and into one of these monsters that is well beyond mortals and even heroes among them. So, let's go into level 2 of the Clan of Archfey, which is Fey Ancestry. Now, if you're playing an elf, this might be a little boring, but I gave you a special additional ability to kind of help those players out, even if you are playing an elf or half-elf. But, essentially, you gain the elf abilities to not have to go to sleep, you get an advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and you can enter a trance for 4 hours rather than sleep. Additionally, and this was the part I was referring to, you gain proficiency in one skill of your choice. Very useful, bare bones at 2nd level, nothing too crazy yet. At 6th level, we got Trickster's Guile. You learn 2 cantrips from either the Druid or Warlock spell list. Honestly, and just as a side tangent, I think Druids are a better witch than Warlocks are. But you get to learn 2 cantrips from one of those 2 classes. Additionally, you learn the Minor Illusion cantrip and can cast Disguise Self a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier per long rest. So this subclass, and you'll also see in the Vampire as well, but this one more particularly, you are going to become a caster that doesn't have spell slots. It is going to be a lot of cantrips, and you can cast this spell a number of times equal Charisma modifier, once per short or long rest, stuff like that. You are going to get all the fundamental abilities that a Fey or an Archfey would truly be able to use, and things that you can use in the future. So for this, like I said, you get the Minor Illusion cantrip, 2 additional cantrips on top of that, so you're really getting 3 cantrips and Disguise Self. It's not too bad, but not very much combat utility, and you're going to see that reflected in future abilities, where these subclasses focus more generally on out-of-combat stuff, because Lifelink and the first level ability, where you regain health, are so dominant in the combat tier of the game. But let's move on to 10th level, where you, at this point, are beginning to turn into a Fey creature. And you have such a deep connection to the Feywild that you can begin tearing small holes into the veil. You gain the ability to cast the Teleportation Circle without using any material components. However, you may only teleport to where you last took a long rest. Now, if you recognize this ability, you probably do, because it is almost a copy and paste from the Druid Circle of Dreams. So I thought that was a very thematic ability, and I think it was reflected very well in this class as well. I just removed material components, and that's pretty much it. It's not too terrible. I don't think it's game-breaking to any degree, because pretty much You can set a home base, and that's where you long rest. But then you're limited to a day's travel all the time. But let's move on to 14th level, our second last ability for the Archfey, which is called Natural Domain. At 14th level, as your power increases, you must choose a Fey court to identify yourself with. This is where you decide, while all Fey are chaotic in nature, whether you're going to be more chaotic good-ish or delve deep into chaotic evil, which I expect most of you to choose. But let's start with the Seelie, which would be the chaotic good side of things. You gain the ability to flash burning light of the hottest summer out into the world. As an action, you emit bright light out to 10 feet and dim light 20 feet past that for 1 minute. Additionally, you and any creature within the bright light gain 1d10 HP or take 1d10 radiant damage. You may use this ability once per long rest. So, for 1 minute, at the start of your turns, you get to regain 1d10 HP or deal 1d10 radiant damage. I think it's not too bad. I think, honestly, it doesn't compete with Healing Spirit, but it's pretty good. And for someone that at this point should be really pumping and dumping your life, I think that's a good ability. But let's move on to the Unseelie Fey. Your corruption has cursed you, and you seek to harm those that you blame for your transformation. At this point, maybe if you're playing a female character, maybe you're slowly turned into a hag. As an action, you may turn invisible for up to 1 hour, and while invisible, you leave no trace of your movement. Making an attack or casting a spell ends this effect. You may use this ability once per short rest. Pretty much a nerfed version of the Green Hag's invisibility ability. That was weird. But yeah, I think it's also very reflective, especially when you get to choose stealth as potentially a proficiency that you have, and then at 9th level you pick to choose expertise in something. You could be a super stealthy Blackguard. There's a ton of builds within this class because it is so modular. But let's move on to your Capstone ability for the Archfey, which is properly named Archfey. 18th level, you have connected your essence to the Feywild, and you have become one with it, and has become one with you. You may cast Modify Memory several times equal to your Charisma modifier per long rest. Additionally, and this is at 18th level, so wizards would have been able to get 9th level spells at 17th level, you may cast Time Stop once per day. Alright, I gave everyone a moment to take a deep breath. I hope we can all be on the same page now. Yes, Time Stop. It's going to be wild, but you're 18th level. Deal with it. Reddit, I can hear you crying. Stop. Stop it. It's okay. A fighting class can get 9th level spells. I think it's fair, and if you manage to survive to 18th level with this class, literally pumping and dumping and gambling your hit points away, I think that's a proper reward. And it makes you a very valuable asset both to the party, but it makes you a very dangerous foe for any future campaign that your DM is running that maybe their future party is going to run into and realize, oh shit, we don't want to mess with this guy. So I think really, honestly, 17th to 20th level is really like the epilogue levels where, honestly, your character is getting set up to be either a campaign villain in a future campaign or a campaign, retired hero in the next campaign. So that's what I think. It's okay to throw these crazy abilities at the end. And it makes people excited for leveling up. But yep, Modify Memory, number of times equal Charisma, and Time Stop. Let's move on to the Fiend, because I've been talking for 25 minutes, and you guys probably have been waiting for this. So, Clan of the Fiend, obviously you are slowly turning into a devil or demon. So at 2nd level, you get Devil's Tongue. You begin inserting sly words and manipulation that always seem to bring the downfall of your peers. You gain expertise in your choice of intimidation, persuasion, or deception, one of those three. and you learn the languages Infernal and Abyssal. Obviously, if you're turning into a devil or demon, you should be able to speak both of those. Master the Weak, begin at 6th level. You can bind the weak against their will. As a bonus action, you may choose a target no more than one size category larger than you. So if you're medium, you can only pick large. You can't pick huge or monstrosity. They must succeed on a grapple contest or be restrained, which, for those who need a reminder on the grapple contest rules, you make an athletics check, they make an athletics check, and if you succeed, they are restrained. While restrained, the target can attempt to escape the grapple at the end of each of its turns. You can release it as a free action. You can only have one active at a time, and you can do this a number of times equal to your charisma modifier per long rest. Additionally, at 6th level, because that was good, but I wanted to give you something else because, at least in my opinion, I think the Devil, or the Fiend Pact, or Clan of the Fiend, is going to be a lot more combat-based than the other two. So I just gave you a quick bonus action. Teleport, it's a Misty Step that you get a number of times equal to Charisma modifier, just so that way you get a little bit of extra mobility. 10th level, you become immune to poisoned and diseased. That's also another reasoning why I gave you the 6th level ability, because 10th level it offers you something, but paladins get this at 3rd level. It's okay. 14th level, and part of the reason why 10th level also sucked, was you get black leathery wings and you get a flying speed of 60 feet. Congratulations, you are now a devil, or a fiend, or a demon, whatever you want to call it. You are one of those. And lastly, because getting giant black leathery wings wasn't good enough for you, you are now Lord of the Abyss. You stand as one of the most feared creatures in the multiverse and can claim a soul as your own. Once per long rest, you may, as an action, choose a target that you can see within 60 feet of you. For 1 minute, that target is marked for death. The following applies to the target that is marked. The souls of your victims reach up and grab the feet of the target, causing them to move as if it was difficult terrain while on the ground. 2 points. 1. Those are the souls of the people you have been killing all the way up to 18th level. Secondly, if they fly, then obviously they're immune to this first portion of the effect. They must make a Constitution saving throw equal to your Blackguard save DC at the start of each of their turns, or take 1d8 necrotic damage and lose that much from their hit point maximum permanently. After killing the target, you capture their soul, allowing you to tap into it 3 times and extend your vigor and strength. As a bonus action, you may use that fragment of the soul and either gain 2d8 HP or gain plus 10 damage on your next hit. After the 3rd use of the soul, it is withered to nothing and dissipates. So, I hope that's pretty self-explanatory. The 1d8 permanently to their hit point maximum. If you're not killing them by 18th level in this class, we have a problem. So, if they manage to escape from you, taking this ability and you at 18th level, yeah, I think it's fair that they get a little bit reduced from their maximum hit points. That's just me. You can change that if you want. But really, at 18th level, no one should be getting away from you. But let's move on to Clan of the Vampire. This one is probably one... I'd like to say this one is my favorite. I'm actually having someone playtest it right now, and so far it's looking perfect. Let's go into it. So this subclass, you are really slowly transforming yourself from being a mortal man or woman into just it almost like, you know, the whole like mind over matter, where you think, if you think that you're sick enough, you eventually make yourself sick. Well, yeah, this is pretty much that ability, except you think that you're a vampire until you slowly make yourself a vampire. So, 2nd level, you have Hemophilia. When you choose this archetype, your fondness for blood has caused you to develop vampiric fangs. These count as natural weapons and can only be used on a grappled, willing, or restrained target. They deal 1d6 plus your strength modifier piercing damage and you gain health equal to half that amount. The target's hit points maximum are reduced by the amount of damage dealt for the next 24 hours. In addition, you have advantage on intelligence investigation checks on tracking a wounded living creature. I think that's simple, bare bones. You have fangs now. And then being able to track wounded living creature, it's second level, so maybe they're allowed to get away from you, but eventually I'm foreseeing that ability just drops off because no one should be getting away from you in this class. But moving on. Vampiric Bloodlust, 6th level. You grab a target quickly after striking them. After hitting a target with a melee weapon or a melee spell attack, a melee weapon attack or a melee spell attack, you can attempt to grapple them as a bonus action. Additionally, your walking speed increases by 10 feet. Simple, bare bones. You smack them with a weapon, then you grab them by the collar. And then you go in for the bite. Next up is Blood Magic. It is your 10th level ability. And this is where things start to get very interesting. Because up until this point, you have been like the bottom feeder vampire. And at this point, you're tapping into what type of magic exists in blood. And especially your own blood. And being able to use it to replicate spell effects. So at 10th level, you're able to manipulate your own blood to cast a spell from a warlock spell list of a level equal to or less than your proficiency bonus. So theoretically, maximum of 6th level, minimum of 1st level. The target, the damage taken this way is unpreventable true damage. So if you, I didn't want to put a damage type because obviously, that's stupid because you could gain resistance or immunity to that and then this ability is broken. But I also didn't want to have it reduce your hit point maximum because I wanted to open up the opportunity for you to regain this health so you can continue doing this. So just making it unpreventable true damage, that's that. Charisma is your spellcasting ability, as with your Blackguard spell save DC. And so pretty much in order to cast a 1st level spell, you take 4d6 damage. And you can cast any spell on the Warlock spell list. It doesn't need to be prepared. You don't need to pick a number of them. You got all of them. You know how to do all of them. But it's going to take a lot of damage towards your HP. 2nd level is 66. 3rd level is 78. 4th level is 8d8 because really there's not much of a difference between 3rd and 4th if you really look at things. And then 5th level is 9d10. 6th level is 10d12 because 6th level is 6th level. And there should be on the table of taking 120 damage. There's also on the table of taking 12 damage. 10 damage. Yeah. Anyways, let's move on to 14th level, Blessing of the Blood. This is when you truly become a true vampire. You are not a vampire lord, you are not Lord Harkin, but you are definitely the Dovahkiin after you install the Dawnguard DLC and decide to choose the cool side of things. So, at 14th level, the power of Vampiric Blood has swelled within you, and you are now a full-fledged vampire. You gain the following features. Regeneration, you regain hit points at the start of each round equal to your lifelink dice, so long as you are not in sunlight or running water, with at least 1 hit point. So, obviously, I didn't want to copy and paste in the whole monster stat block because being able to regain 10 HP on top of the life you'd be regaining on a hit, on top of Hemophilia, figured that was a little overboard. So instead what I decided to do was kind of scale it based on your lifelink dice, and essentially you just roll that at the start of your turn. That's how many how much HP you regain, so long as you're not in sunlight, running water, and you have 1 HP already. Improved Bite. Your bite attack now deals an additional 3d6 necrotic damage. Very cool. And then finally, Shape Change. While you're not in sunlight or running water, you can use your action to polymorph into a tiny bat. While in bat form, you can't speak, your walking speed is 5 feet, your flying speed is 30. Your statistics other than size and speed are unchanged. So if your strength stays strength, your constitution stays the same, your very low intelligence probably stays the same. Anything you are wearing or is transformed with you If you're knocked unconscious or die, you revert to your true form. Forbiddance, you can't enter a residence without invitation from one of the occupants. So this will be making infiltration missions very interesting. Make sure you and the DM are on the same page about this and what is considered a invitation or not, because I don't want to be responsible for a lot of table fights. So make sure you're very on board and just be transparent in the party. If you're going into something, make sure that maybe you get the rogue inside there first and they're like, hey buddy, come on inside. That's an invitation from one of the occupants. Sunlight sensitivity, as per normal. You have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks while you're in sunlight, and you take 20 radiant damage at the start of your turn while in sunlight. And finally, rounding us all out, ending this 35-minute video, you at 18th level gain the Sanguine Prince ability. You are now Lord Harkin. You are now a stream of poison flowing through the world, corrupting it with your vampiric gifts. Your strength, dexterity, and constitution scores all change to 18 if they are not already higher. And in addition, once per day, if you were to fail a saving throw, you may choose to succeed instead. So, the strength, dexterity, and constitution ability scores going up to 18. Honestly, with this class, one of strength or dexterity should probably be an 18 or 20 by now, and your constitution should probably be pretty close, but at least it buffs the other one. Or if you're suffering from base ability stats, now you're good. Additionally, that final clause where if you were to fail a saving throw, you can choose to succeed once per day. That is a informal legendary resistance, which means two things. One, if your DM doesn't believe in giving you legendary resistances, now you have at least one. If your DM does believe in legendary resistances, now you have 4. Capiche? Very cool. Alright, well, I want to thank you all very much for listening all the way to the end of this 37-minute video now. I really appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed and thought this was useful, please leave a like down below. It really helps grow the channel. Otherwise, please have a great one. Please subscribe, do all the things. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.